at this time, I'd like everyone to stand, and I've invited Vince Navarre to come and lead us in an invocation.
Thank you. Given the opportunity to do a prayer today, took the liberty of writing some words down from the Bible, from the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, and verse 28. It says, "Have you not known, have you not heard that the Lord, the everlasting God, the creator of the whole earth, never becomes faint or weary? There's no limit to his understanding. He gives strength to the faint and strengthens the powerless. Youths may become faint and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who trust in the Lord will renew their strength and will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not become weary, and they will walk and not faint." And the reason I selected those is because the climate that we're in, politically and so forth, me personally, feeling faint and weary with the opponents that are against us. They keep coming. They keep coming and coming. And we don't want to give up. But we that wait on the Lord can renew our strength in a supernatural way. And we need that. We need that X factor. So with that in mind, Heavenly Father, how thankful we are for your love for us, for your providence over everything. We thank you that we appeal to you working within us. We need your wisdom. We need your understanding. So we thank you that we keep things straight on your word. We thank you that you protect our families and our lives continually. And we thank you that you work in our wonderful representatives that defend your rights that you've given us. And we thank you for this meeting tonight, that we learned something and that we are able to take action on it in the near future. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
All right, if you can remain standing, I'd ask Kirk Wall to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, you guys are all alive through the first half of the legislature. Today we have Aoibheann Cline, who's the Washington State Director for the NRA-ILA, and I can tell you that from all my years of going to the legislature, the NRA is the only organization, gun organization, that consistently every single year represents all of you in the legislature, as well as during election time and so forth. So we really appreciate that. After her will be C.D. Jacobson, representative in the 25th district. And then we have Senator Jimmy Kuhn, who's is a senator in the 2nd district. So we're going to have them speak, and then we'll take questions at the end. So make sure if you have a question that you write it down. And I do have flyers over there. If you didn't grab one, I have the bills stated on the bottom, February 17th. That's the bills moving forward. And the one that's either dated the 25th at the bottom, that's the bills that were proposed. So you can see what was proposed, and the list that's moving forward is much smaller. Thank you for all of you who comment on these bills. Give yourself a round of applause, because those are the ones that got stopped. So thank you for that. And then for those of you who are new, I do publish the list of gun bills that have passed since 2019. And why 2019? And I will be partisan a little bit. So in 2018, the Democrats gained 12 seats in the state of Washington, which caused the Democrat Party to kick out all the moderate, gun-owning Democrats out of the legislature. They replaced them all with progressives. And so if it seems frustrating and you want to stop it, we have to vote every single election. In the last election that we just had, there was a school levy. 25% of the people decided that your property taxes will be increased because people didn't vote. It's a simple majority now that passes taxes, unfortunately. So, grab your forms over there. I also have booklets too that, I have booklets on how the legislature is structured, and so it's your guide, reference guide on what to do, because I know some people post online about commenting on a bill, and then you see it again now and say, well, that person told me a month ago to comment, I already did it. Well, that's not the way it works. So, and then we'll let them explain it to you a little bit more. But tomorrow there is a hearing, and I'll let Aoibheann talk about that. And we need everyone to comment on the bill tomorrow. So, I appreciate all you guys here. We do these workshops throughout the year, and so next time bring a friend, and if you want to make sure I send you an invite, I need to have your email address. So thank you so much for coming. And Aoibheann Cline, you want to come up and talk now about the gun bills.
Thank you, Jane, as always. And a big thank you to the Tacoma Sportsman's Club, who always is so gracious to host us. It's always a pleasure to see you guys here at the Sportsman's Club. Usually under not the best of scenarios, because the things we're talking about are gun bills that don't look good for us. But I am here this year with a renewed kind of joy and excitement for what the good folks in Olympia are doing. The Republicans, not to be partisan, but the Republicans have really band together. And if you look at Jane's list that she has put out, these are all of the gun bills that have already been killed this session. These are infringements on your right to keep and bear arms in the state of Washington that is not going to move forward. That is because of efforts of senators and representatives like Senator McCune and Representative Jacobson, because of organizations like the NRA, and because of every single one of you who commented, reached out to your legislators, posted on Facebook, used your social media networks, talked. It is working. Right? It is being heard. These things are being stopped. So, I'd like to back up to what this session is. Again, with that, we've got good things going, but there are still bad things to be stopped. 2026 is what's known as a short session. It is 60 days. It is a sprint to the finish line for the legislature. There is a lot of bills that go. I believe Representative Jacobson, maybe I'm stealing a little thunder here, but said some of the lowest number of bills in recent memory to cross over the House of Origin deadline. Which means those folks who are fighting for you in Olympia are only focusing on the big issues, the things that matter the most to Washingtonians. And let's not talk about the rest of it, right? Let's focus on what's going to make life better in Washington. And whatever is left, let's continue to fight with everything we have. So we are in a short session. We are on the second half of the short session. So February 7th was the House of Origin cutoff. We have 2 bills from a gun bill standpoint. There are 4 on your list. I'm just going to talk about the 2 bad bills that are left. Okay? So, we have a very short window of impact to make on those 2 bills. As Jane had mentioned, the first bill has a hearing this Friday, January 20th. I'll talk to you about ways that we can sign in, make an impact, have your voice heard, So the first bill that I'll talk about for that hearing on Friday is a 3D printing ban. Some folks like to call it a new novel concept because 3D printing is generally referred to as kind of newer in the technology space. But when you read the details of the bill, it's nothing new. It is more gun control layered on top of things that are already illegal with a different set of legislative traps for gun owners on the back end, right? To get you in trouble. That bill's moving forward. Hearing on Friday. Some good news though. Out of the House, that bill was amended on the floor considerably. It is still a bad bill. It is better than it was. So the 3D printing ban, from the NRA's perspective, not only has infringements on the Second Amendment, but because it also creates a crime for the actual possession and distribution of the, I don't know what the word is, the codes, thank you. For the actual codes, we have First Amendment considerations. There is some changes, but also some good changes, but also some considerations on Fifth Amendment violations when we talk about just being in possession of that code, what you're doing with it, and having to prove that you are not illegally in possession with the intent to distribute that. So it is a messy, messy bill. It is better than where it was, but it's still a bad bill. So, can I have a raise of hands if people have heard about that bill? Okay. If you've heard about it on social media, can you raise your hand? Okay. If you've heard about it through the NRA's alerts, okay, good. News, any other source? Yes. Okay. So there's a mix, right? The NRA, which you receive if you receive the NRA IOA alerts, you have to sign up for those. There's a reason you have to sign up. Because you don't have to be a member. They're free, but we don't spam your inbox. So if you aren't signed up for NRA IOA alerts, you don't get them. You might see them from Jane, you might see them shared on social media. But if you want to hear and see those direct when bills are moving, that's going to come from Iowa, that's going to come from me, information about those bills, what to do, when to do, and how to contact the right legislators. Put an easy take action button on those alerts so that communication is directed to the right people when. And as Jane had mentioned, I've already talked about that. I already sent a comment. We have to do it through every step of the process so that the right people are hearing this at the right time. So we have an opportunity to raise our voice, make sure that it is heard on Friday, and you can do that through a couple options. You can testify in person in Olympia. You can testify remotely via Zoom. You can submit written testimony, and at the very bare minimum, I ask that you at least sign in FON. That means you oppose the bill, and there is a detailed description on how to do that from Jane, from the NRA. Don't know how to get there, we will help you get there. Sign in. That information goes into the committee record, it goes into the legislative record, and it is read. This many people signed in for and against not wishing to testify. So that is important information. We often hear, my voice doesn't matter. When it comes to the end of the day, it may feel like that because you're not hearing it directly from legislators, but I can guarantee those conversations are being had behind the scene, in caucus. Those legislators who say, I have 10,000 emails opposing this bill. that testimony signed in was 10-1, 40-1, 400-1 in opposition. Those are conversations that are being had. So if we aren't willing as gun owners to fight for ourselves and have our own voices heard, who's going to fight for us, right? We won't fight for ourselves. Why would anybody else help us? We have to help ourselves, right? We have to make our voices heard, and there are plenty of ways to do that. So that is for the committee officially. You can also always email or call your representative, your own representative, or the committee members if that bill is in committee. Right? So there are plenty of options. If you need help figuring out how, when, and where to contact representatives, please reach out to myself. Please reach out to Jane or anybody else that you may know who knows what's going on in Olympia, and we will direct you there because we want your voices heard and we want to make it as easy as possible for you. So Friday, House Bill 2320 is the 3D printing ban. It's at 2 p.m. in the Senate Law and Justice Committee. So please, if you have not already, sign in. If you haven't already, also email the committee members. Go to the NRA's Take Action Alert. That will be on there. It is very easy. It is a form letter from the NRA. Your information is put in there so that they know you are from Washington. And you also have the ability on the NRA's letter, which other groups do not do. The NRA's letter you can customize. So I go in and say, here's the kind of bullet point major issues with the bill. Add your own flavor in there, right? Or take it all out. But at the back end of that, what the NRA has done for you is to make it very, very easy so that when you press send, that goes to the correct representatives or senators respectively. It's going to go to the right committee. If it's on the floor, it's going to go to the floor. So make sure that you do that, please. Can I get at least a head nod? Yes, I'm going to do that if I haven't already. See about a quarter of the room. So I'm just going to say it's cold and our necks are stiff, and I know that you will be doing it. Okay. Perfect. So the other bill that is still alive from an anti-gun perspective is what's called a carryover bill. It is Senate Bill 5098. The legislature works in a biennium, so it's a 2-year session. We are in the short session. The odd years are the long session. Start long year. Bills that don't quite make it all the way across the finish line can be revived and brought back in the short session. Senate Bill 5098 made it through the Senate, made it through the House in 2025. But because there were amendments to the bill, it has to be sent back to be agreed upon by the opposite house. So that didn't cross the finish line. So that bill passed by all consideration of the legislature, but it wasn't approved by the legislature. So that bill was revived in the Senate this year, very early in January. It was passed on a party line vote out of the Senate, and on January 26th, or since January 26th, it has been sitting in the House Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee. There are 6 days for that committee to hold a public hearing and then an executive session or a vote on that and advance that bill out of committee. That is a very short window of time to hold 2 different hearings. We have a member of the House Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee here with us tonight. The bill is not scheduled yet, but it could be. We have a very short window. So Senate Bill 5098 expands gun-free zones across the state of Washington. Gun-free zones are not effective. You can read any amount of literature and you're going to see a different number, but they all hover around 84 to 89% of mass shooting tragedies occur in gun-free zones. That is places where the law has said you cannot have a firearm. As we all know, criminals don't care about the law. By their very nature, they are violating it. And if they see something like a gun-free zone sign, they know I'm walking into somewhere where I'm not going to be met with opposition. That I'm going to be walking into a place where all of the good law-abiding folks of Washington have been disarmed by the government and not allowed to carry. Senate Bill 5098 would take the already expansive gun-free zones in Washington and extrapolate it. It would allow firearms to be prohibited in public buildings, the areas around them, in parks, and places where children are likely to be present. That's the big kicker. Did anybody in here, like myself, grow up hunting or shooting on public land? That is a public land. That is a public park. A place where children are likely to be present. Say goodbye to hunting and fishing access. There were amendments last year and considerations in the bill this year about appropriate signage, how often, how far apart gun-free zone signs need to be posted so that you're aware that you're entering somewhere that is a gun-free zone. There were concealed carry amendments to say if you are licensed to carry, okay, the government has granted you permission to exercise a constitutional right guaranteed by not only the U.S. Constitution, but the Washington State Constitution. You can carry here. If you are like me and live and breathe by duck hunting, it's pretty dang hard to conceal carry your shotgun. They're also probably not getting a permit to carry that, right? Conceal carry that. That's not what that's for. If you are a deer or an elk hunter like myself, you have the same issue. If you're just a public land hunter, we talk about first-time gun owners. We talk about teaching the next generation about shooting and not having to pay to spend additional resources to go to a club. Public land is a place where many people have learned to shoot, have learned to hunt, who have grown up enjoying the outdoors, and firearms are a part of that. Senate Bill 5098 will be the end of it. So that bill is very much still alive, but we have a short window for that bill to advance. So those are the anti-bills that I'm going to talk about. We have other speakers who are going to talk about everything else that's going on in Washington. My goodness, is there a lot? There's a lot of good things that have been done. In particular, please take a look at the list that Jane spent a lot of time and effort tracking and printing and making available for you so you don't have to track down this information. Just recently, House Bill 1152, I'd like to talk about that bill. That is a storage requirement bill. It would have required a one-size-fits-all mandatory lockup of your firearm with your ammunition and your magazines separate. That'd be stored and locked separately. So if you were in your home or in your vehicle, you have a very expensive paperweight, or potentially just a bag, right? That bill kind of crept its way back from the carryover 2025 session, but failed to meet committee deadlines. I bring this up because although it didn't meet the cutoff deadlines, So by the technical letter of the law, and you've got to hit these dates, and if bills don't hit these dates, then it's dead. I have been in this job and in this role and around politics long enough to know that I don't hold my breath until don't release my breath. I hold my breath until we get to second. That things can happen, rules can be changed, bills can be revived, you can see them in other vehicles. So please be aware that although these are dead and good work has been done, there's always a potential. Especially while we still have major infringements facing the state of Washington. And we count on you and your voices. If you have the opportunity to join us in Olympia, please do. You can get there and testify remotely. Please do that. Email the committee. Sign in on. And just stay engaged. Whether that's through your own circles, communicating face to face like we are tonight, whether that's through social media, sharing YouTube, sharing posts. Please stay engaged. Your voice does matter. Your voice is heard. And in years like this, that end in an even number, it's what we like to refer to as election years. There's a lot of pressure. And these votes matter because at the end of the day, when the session is done, the NRA's job has just gotten started. I then look at all of the votes. I look at every single candidate who has filed for election in the state of Washington. I grade their candidate questionnaire, so their statement on where their position is on a whole host of firearms-related issues, how they would protect the Second Amendment for Washingtonians, and I grade that like a teacher. We do not have automatic grading. I physically sit down and go through every single question. I look at votes for sitting elected officials. If there is somebody coming from local government and they've taken issues on firearms, say a city or a county wants to ban firearms at X, Y, and Z places, which happens in Washington, I take a look at that. I look at their social media. I look at their floor statements. I look at their websites. And I make sure that at the end of the day, in the primary in May and in November, that when the NRA gives them a grade from A to F, that is an accurate grade. Somebody with an A from the NRA is going to support your firearm rights. Somebody with an F is not. The NRA also uses those grades and these votes to then determine who gets endorsed by the NRA. An endorsement from the NRA carries an even higher level that says, we are sure this person is going to fight for you if they get to Olympia. That they're coming in there with the right to keep and bear arms at the front of their mind, knowing that we have faced a decade of onslaught of attacks and infringements on the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms under the Washington State Constitution and no more. So, thank you for allowing me to be here. It's great to see familiar faces. It's even better to see new ones. I'll hold questions, but thank you again for Jane, and I really do appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Aoibheann. And she has to leave early because she represents Idaho, Oregon, and Alaska too, and has to be in a hearing in one of the other states. One of the things that was difficult this year was normally gun bills are heard in the Civil Rights and Judiciary Committee in the House or the Law and Justice in the Senate. Well, some of the bills went straight to appropriations and bypassed the committee. Some were heard in early learning. Another one was heard in state government and tribal affairs. And Senate Bill 5098, the No Gun Zone bill, had a hearing last year, and usually in the past, a committee chair has had another hearing this year, for the public to be engaged in it. The Democrats put that bill straight to a floor vote. And so just a heads up on that one, that 5098, that one could go straight to the floor in the House too. So just to be alert about that.